Just a minute. Okay, I think we have 40, 50 of them there. Maybe we can actually kind of start now. All of you all set for today?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, all of you just, again, welcome back. The reason I'm actually kind of wanted to say welcome back to all of you was, because we, at least three of you are part of our, you know, uh, you know, webinars earlier. You are one of the speakers in earlier, discussions and all. So, welcome back again. And Preeti, welcome. A quick thing, right? I'm sure again last year when we started this change in webinars, we kind of started when the COVID first phase started. Then we went through that to ensure that there is a lot of engagement in the industry. Everybody need to be part of and we want to engage all the women in the industry. That's actually like idea behind it. There are a lot of positive response came from the industry, and almost close to about 10,000 odd women participated in those 120 odd webinars we did, right? And you could see the responses on people are regularly watching the YouTube videos what we've kind of presented last year, and then everybody is extremely happy about the learnings they went through, and a lot of positive response when people spoke to us saying that it really helped them to actually kind of engage them in a different prospects of it. But it becomes slowly became little monotonous to people because everybody started that, right? So we also kind of went down a little bit, but this time we kind of wanted to start with a specific program called Women on Break. And we observed that there are a lot of one because of COVID, there are a lot of people lost, especially I think the data speaks about the women especially kind of lost a lot of jobs in the COVID times. Again, data is always kind of can be debatable, but we felt that. Second thing is actually there are a lot of opportunities coming in because of virtual working models. That made we also look at actually why don't we start talking about Women on Break as a program and run it, right? That's the idea behind it. And quickly I think we started a program called Born program, which is like especially for women on break. I'll quickly take a 1 minute for that, and then I'll hand over Kriti post that and take this fantastic session. Right? Thank you all of you, and I'm just starting. I'm just putting that video quickly so that people can quickly watch that. Give me 1 minute to open that. We're calling this program as Bond program. Again, I'll just Thank you very much. So a quick, few of them we're discussing on few aspects of it, but yeah, I think this is how we're looking at it. Kriti, over to you. Thank you very much, and panel, please take this wonderful session ahead.
Thank you so much, Murli. We are very excited to be here today, especially on this topic of women on break. And I'm privileged to be moderating the session today with such senior experienced leaders in the HR fraternity and the business fraternity. So very excited to be here. Hi, everyone. I will be the moderator today. My name is Kriti Jain. I am part of Myntra team and I lead diversity and inclusion and learning and development for Myntra. I'd like to also, before we take the session forward, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel for today and welcome them and thank them for taking time out to talk to all of us and share their expert opinions. Welcome Dr. Ankita Singh. Dr. Ankita Singh is Senior Vice President and Global Head of HR at CIGNEX Datamatics. She has about 22 years of progressive experience in managing and leading various aspects of HR. She has excelled in establishing innovative and competitive initiatives and institutionalizing a strong data-driven and performance-driven culture at CIGNEX. This has also resulted in the company being certified as a great place to work for the last 4 years in a row. Congratulations, Dr. Ankita Singh. That's a great milestone indeed. Her expertise includes transformational change management and driving M&A initiatives, and she's been recognized by various prestigious platforms for her contribution and excellence in the field of HR. She believes in driving organization through people and not processes. And apart from her professional excellence, she's also very actively supporting social causes by working with lots of NGOs on child education and development. Once again, a warm welcome to you, Dr. Ankita. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Kriti. Looking forward to our session. Thanks a lot.
Next, I'd like to welcome Ruchira Bharadwaj. She's currently the Joint President and CHRO at Kotak Life. She's a seasoned HR professional with a passion for talent management. From innovative leadership to navigating complexities with a lot of composure, she has definitely made a mark in the HR industry. Extremely scientific and data-driven in her approach, she has driven many HR transformational initiatives in her career and has been a very strategic business partner for her leaders. She's a passionate diversity champion and believes that returnship opportunities for women should be easily accessible and return breaks should be normalized. We are looking forward to hearing from you and understanding your valuable opinions. Welcome, Ruchira.
Thank you, Kriti. Very glad to be here.
Thank you. Last but not the least, I'm very glad to welcome Padma Priya. She is the General Manager and Head of India at Visible Alpha. She brings with her 25 years of experience in leading high-performing teams and has significant strategic, financial, operational, and leadership expertise in the BFSI domain. She's also an certified executive coach and has been a diversity and inclusion sponsor for many years. She believes in supporting women talent grow in the organization and actively believes that women who take breaks for a variety of personal reasons in her career do not fall off the professional ladder and actively champions the cause of growing women in corporate workspace. She's been a panelist on many such forums and shares a lot of experience through her own personal and professional journey. Welcome, Priya.
Thank you so much.
Great. So now that we have all the esteemed panel on board, I'll kickstart this. And before we get into the topic of returnship programs for women, I'd like us to just reflect upon why this topic, right? And I think over the last year, all of this situation of remote working, it has had a very different impact on how corporates work. And just when we kickstarted the call, Murli had shared that it has had an impact on a lot of jobs, right? And some data also suggests that it has impacted women adversely. So my first question to you, Dr. Ankita, is that what do you think about this scenario, right? I think remote working has impacted women differently than men. I think there is this added advantage that you can work from anywhere. You're able to balance your work and career. You're not constrained by being in office, which could be seen as a positive. But there's also this negative part of it, right, which is around how do I really manage everything seamlessly? Because women, whatever said and done, tend to shoulder a lot of responsibilities on the home front, right? So there is that added stress, and there's also a lot of implications in terms of mental health. So what's your take on this? And do you think it's work from home is a boon or a bane? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks, Kriti. I think it's a mix because, see, we have been using the term work life balance for a very long time. And I think last year, everybody accepted that we have shifted from the word balance to integrate, right? So everybody is actually now having a great integration between their work and life, because you don't know when you will be needed at your workspace and when your family can be asking for your time. So you have to literally juggle around with those things and you have to really do it well. With respect to females, particularly, as you rightly said, we are still in a society where we have started talking more openly about, equality and removing gender biasness. But the culture, the core culture of the society, even today, is where females are responsible and females do have family obligations, right? So by default, they are supposed to take care of everything. Now, finding a balance will always be a difficult task, and that's the reason, if you refer to IBM reports, they say only 70% of the global businesses have getting females back to work as their top priority. So, very, very less in numbers. And when you talk to females, when they decide to leave the work, maybe because of marriage or relocation, or after their maternity leave they are not able to continue, the percentage is really higher, much higher than even I assumed. 80% of these females, they don't even come back to work. So now with this pandemic, when we know that everybody is working from home, has it really helped? I would say to a sector, yes. To a percentage, yes. Because people who have at least find some stability, they know that I can be at home and I can work for 4 to 5 hours. I can have my child next to me sitting and doing whatever he or she wants to, and I can still focus on my work. Whenever I get time, there is an opportunity for them, or I would say there are multiple opportunities for them. But there are females who have so much on their plate, but the time is less. So even if you have these opportunities, the clear or the, as we say, the blanket opportunity, which remains same for everybody, they would not be able to use it at that level. So even now, I think organizations have to realize that the entire sector cannot be treated as one group. There would be a lot of females who need some different kind of attention, a different level of training, a different level of induction to this program, which they can take up, which would mean, if at all they can only work for 3 hours a day, yes, there is a possibility in this organization. For our ex employees or for people who have gone on long leave, organizations have to be really there to align and adapt as per their need. And thanks to technology, as you rightly said, all of us, we managed to work from home in last 1 year. And even going forward, a lot of companies are talking about having a mix, like everybody is talking about hybrid model. Nobody is saying that we will have 100% employees in the office, unless obviously that's the requirement of that particular sector. So organizations are doing a lot of things, but what I have witnessed, we are still going ahead with the blanket policies, blanket approaches, that part-time jobs, internship, returnship, for a section. Nobody is even now going case by case. And I think that's the need. But the answer is not that simple. I would say pandemic has changed a lot of things. It has created more opportunities definitely than what there were in 2019 or before, for people who were completely at home. But returning back to the organization, has that been changed primarily because of the pandemic? I don't think so. I think the skill gap or the hesitation, or whether I'll be able to work as a full timer, whether I'll be able to contribute, how do I balance or integrate work and life, all those questions still remain. And a lot of work has to be done towards that, not only by the organizations, but by the females also. So, like Murli mentioned about the program, and somebody immediately mentioned in the chat window, how do I join? So that kind of initiative is required from these three parties, where enabler is there and the person who is interested in doing it, and where you want to join, they also have the equal openness. If these three things are coming together and we are able to connect the dots well, probably things will definitely improve. So that's my take, Akriti.
Thank you so much for sharing that, right? And I think a lot of interesting perspectives. And I really loved your point about how we tend to treat, even when we're talking about diversity and inclusion, we tend to treat women as a group or any other sections of diverse group, right? I think that kind of really defeats the purpose of diversity, because diversity means that each of us are different. Even within this room, all of us have different circumstances, all of us have different personal situations. So the kind of flexibility we need may be very, very different. So I think brilliant point, Dr. Ankita, right? And I think that sets the right tone for our conversation going forward. And taking cues from your perspectives, right? My next question is to you, Ruchira, and I'd like to, talk about how there are different ways, right? There are different reasons for which women take breaks. A lot of times we assume it is for maternity reasons, but like Dr. Ankita rightly said, it could be for a variety of things, right? I could be getting relocated, or it could be for elder care in the family. Maternity is just one of the reasons. But what ends up happening is the whole reason we need to talk about returnship programs or any such policies is because it ends up impacting women in a negative way. When we go out, and the way traditional interviewing processes are structured, you always go straight to tell me about a time when you did so and so. Tell me about a time when you demonstrated excellence on a certain technology or on a certain skill set that I'm looking for. And that's when people who've been on a break, they fall short, right? They're not able to explain. If you ask me today that what was I doing 6 years back in one organization on a particular project, I will not be able to give so many details, right? It is just not possible. So what do you think are typical challenges, some of these other challenges which you have seen in the way we hire or in the way we evaluate performance? And as corporates, what can we do to normalize career breaks? How do we destigmatize this topic? I'd love to hear from you.
Priti, I think I so agree with Dr. Ankita when she said that the pandemic has resulted in a paradigm shift in the minds of people, in the minds of managers, in the minds of recruiters about people working from home, and hence women working from home. And this entire unconscious bias about not accepting remote or anywhere work scenario has to a quite extent been nullified, right? But having said that, one of the first reactions when the lockdown started on 24th of March was this great opportunity to bring back women to work. But as the euphoria died down and the reality sunk in, we also realized, and organizations and women also, I think, realized that the situation might have worsened. And personally, for me, I would say that the realization came in when a couple of my HR colleagues, team members who are working mothers, were finding it difficult, were struggling because they were wanting to keep up with the demands made by their children, by their spouse, by parents, and of course, by their managers. So that realization, I think, has really augmented, I would say, and has really helped people to dump some bit of the linear thinking lines, and many organizations to dump those linear lines and think of how this can be addressed. I think one of the things that definitely has to be addressed through policies, right? Whether it is about a flexi work time policy, whether it's about digital shutdowns at appropriate and honorable hours, or is it about giving me time slots to people, right? And not just to women, actually to everybody. Many times we keep forgetting that men working with us might also have a working spouse at home, right? So, so giving that time, that break for men also, saying that so that they can share that responsibility. It's about saying that as an organization, we care and we understand your different needs. And what Ankita mentioned, I think, is extremely important. This is the time where you can actually customize the working timings or your policies dependent on the requirement of the person as well as the person managing that person, right? So, and hence the team and so on and so forth. So that's really the first thing I would say. Look at the policies about how you can augment this working climate and make it more conducive. The second thing I would say, this entire part-time model which has come up, which is a great opportunity and many returnship opportunities that are being launched by organizations, especially the tech companies, is providing that opportunity and plunging into this talent pool, which is now, which has opened up, right? Where women can spend a part of the day working for an organization from a place they like, right? So that's I think another thing that becomes very crucial to tap into this current existing pool of talent which might be available for people. The third piece is, I think, this entire flexibility to hone about what kind of work you would want to do, the policy about how that work would get measured, how if you are working on multiple projects at multiple points in time, or you are actually freelancing with an organization and you are part of an alternate workforce, or you are wanting to come back fully into the organization, how really the organization is going to articulate its productivity criteria, its performance criteria to measure performance and productivity for people, right? For different sets of people. And I think at this point in time, there are two more things, Kriti, which becomes very important. One is, of course, managing this entire stress level. There's a lot of grief which has happened, which is happening across us. And it is continuing at this point in time. And women somehow societally, if that is a word. So from the societal point of view also, as someone who is taking care of those concerns at home, right? And taking care, plus there's work to do. At that point in time, can we have stress busters, which could be creating an official networking, like a support group to say that you are coming back to work after a break, or you are working with us on a part-time project. How do I create this entire support group for you to address your stresses, so to say? And for somebody who's really coming back after a long period of time, I think the organizations should really look at maybe a 4-day a week instead of a 5-day working. That would be great. So I think these are the 5 things. Look at policies, look at part-time models, look at absolute flexibility in choosing your role and when you want to work, and stress management in terms of providing support group. And the 5th is, of course, can we have a 4-day week for women coming from a break?
Absolutely. I think, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Ruchira. And I think one of the points which also stayed with me was what you talked about, right? How do we as organizations demonstrate care and empathy? And it's not just for women, right? For everybody, because everyone has their own personal circumstances. And, I think last week itself, GPTW announced their best workplaces for this year. And when they did a few polls and they asked employees, everybody unanimously said that what makes a great organization is care and empathy, right? People are no longer talking just about careers or compensation, but it is about how as an organization I stand by with you when I need help as an employee. I think that truly talks about the DNA of an organization. And I think it goes a long way in terms of establishing a long-term relationship with our employees. So very, very beautiful point there. And I think the other piece I also want to touch upon, which both you and Dr. Ankita said, was about how we need to be flexible in our approach in terms of, let's say, part-time working hours or any other flexibility that women may need, whether it is half day every day of the week or is it 4-day working week. And I think what also becomes important is how do we evaluate performance? Because we are used to evaluating performance in the traditional sense. People work X number of hours, so many days of the week. And I think managers and organizations often struggle to say if somebody is taking a little bit time away from work, it's very easy to adjust compensation, right? But how you look at making sure that their performance is evaluated for the time they are on the job and it does not impact ratings or promotion in any sense is also something I think we all need to kind of take a look at. Just shifting gears a little bit, and my next question is to you, Priya, right? And I always love it when there are business leaders having, taking partnership and actively championing the cause of diversity and inclusion, because change starts from the top, right? Change starts from all of you here, and really, really happy to see somebody walking the talk and actively championing the cause of inclusion. So my question for you is to all women who are on career break, and we have a lot of them in the audience as well, who have taken some time off to focus on their personal priorities and now are looking to re-enter the workforce, right? They feel they're ready and they'd like to kind of make a comeback. What would be your tips? And like Dr. Ankita had said, right, it's everybody needs to come together, as organizations need to provide that environment. Even women looking to re-enter the workforce, they need to take some steps. So, and I know you've made a tremendous comeback, right? So, what would be your tips, right? What would you tell this group, that what are the kind of things they should do when they start thinking about returning to the workspace?
Yeah. Thanks for that. And just before I jump into it, I don't know how many people realized it, but now on LinkedIn, you have a new status called stay-at-home parent. And I think that's a great way of normalizing, this career break. And LinkedIn has a huge impact for the last few years on all our careers, right? Everything that you are looking at for a new job or a new person to recruit, that's the place you go to. And when you start seeing that somebody is actually updating that status and that's available, I think that itself is a huge revolution in terms of normalizing the career break. I think that's the first point. And much of what Ruchira mentioned, right? There are a few things that I think I will quote Visible Alpha, because we have done this before, and this has worked very well. And I can say that for the last 5 years, whoever went on maternity leave, all have come back. So maybe a few people, took a break and came back, but they all returned. And some of these policies are important. So basically the policies that we thought about, and maybe because it's also a young organization, it's more a product fintech. So I think we also learned from the environment around us and being employee friendly. So extended 6 months with flexible work time, I think worked very well. We had given an opportunity for women who are coming back to work from home for the time that they wanted. So that ease coming back into workplace is smoother. So they're able to balance it out a little bit. And I think you also mentioned a few things like a mother's room, for example. I think optically it has a huge impact. So you're actually saying as an organization, first policies, be it for adoption or paternity or maternity and all that stuff, that you as an organization, as a leadership team in the organization, you think that is normal. And having something that is optically out there, like a mother's room, says it all, right? And I think small little things like and you also talked about making the employees feel good. So we started this year about sending a little hamper for a new baby born to their houses. And now it's a little bit more effort, because it's not that the mother is exactly in the same location as the office. Now they're all over India, but it really takes a small effort. And I think that the daycare facility was something that we had, but of course we are re-looking at how that whole thing kind of looks at now. And I think these are small factors that make the coming back easier, and also feels that in that organization, it is a normal thing to do. But I think if I have to talk specifically on a few topics that I think what would be actually you need to do while you're on a break and you're wanting to coming back, I think first thing I would say on the work front, I'll say that, don't take the break completely, in the sense that don't break your routine, because if you go back into your normal routine of disconnecting completely and not having any learnings that you are actually going to do, I think that would be one thing that you don't want to do. So even if you have a baby, I had 2 children along the way. And I think I can say that, you still have that time that you will have that half an hour, 1 hour that you want to spend to do something else. So either when the baby is sleeping or a little older, maybe when 2-3 months later and so on, I think that learning is a different aspect, and that should stay. And waking up at a certain time, doing that physical exercise at a certain time, don't break that routine, because coming back to that routine is a big thing. So I think that's number one. And I'll say that now you have a lot of time to grow your network. And now with social media and everything else, make your social media presence more active. So you can always attend a webinar, you can comment on a few thoughts, you can comment on something that you read now recently on a particular thing. And I think the third one I would say is definitely do some courses. So, be it Coursera or LinkedIn Learning, much of the courses are quite easily available. And now with the pandemic, everything has become online. So I think take advantage of that, because I think the one big thing that women, when they're coming back, is the lack of confidence, saying that, am I as good? And I think reminding yourself that you have the power within you and you have the knowledge, and staying connected with your subject is actually going to be the one big thing to make you come back. But having said that, I mean, these are all good, the good things. But of course, on a tactical standpoint, I think you have to plan your life. You have to be absolutely sure and remind yourself that what it was, if you're in a maternity break before, is not exactly going to be the same, because you have a new life in your whole day to day. And adjusting to that is an important element. So don't expect it to be like before. You had all the time for yourself. Now it has to be in the new circumstances. So I think it's important to acknowledge that fact. I think that's a big thing. And plan, because when you are wanting to come back, I think planning is the key thing. I think it's very important to ensure that you actually plan your personal life. Look at what help you need, whether the family or external help or anything else. I think that's an important element. Spouse plays a key part, your family, extended family, for a little time. Seek help. I think most women want to do it all by themselves. And I think it's quite difficult to make that happen by yourself. So I think it's important to delegate and then kind of conquer your space. So I'll say a few things here like this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And just taking that forward, and I'd like to double click on one of the things you said. You talked about networking, right? That use this time, and I think especially now with social media, and we can reach out to anyone, anywhere, right? And with, I think, the whole remote working situation has also made us a lot comfortable with remote connections. Earlier, if you were to, let's say, seek out someone and want to get career guidance, our first preference would be to meet in person, and then you would be constrained by a location, traveling time, and all of that, right? Now it's just about hopping on from one call to the next, and the world is at your feet, right? In that context, I'd love to know from you, how do you think women can find mentors? And I think mentoring is a very underutilized sort of a sector. I feel there are so many great mentors out there, and especially for women, I think it's very important to find those mentors who will help you grow, who will help you overcome some of your blind spots. I'd love to hear your perspectives on mentoring, and especially if women are coming back to break, how can they find mentors? What should they do, to find good mentors, and how do they get the best out of a mentoring relationship?
So I think this mentoring thing is a hit or miss, right? And it's very important that you are as involved as an employee. Like if I want mentoring, you have to be bought into this whole aspect. And I had many conversations in different organizations, is that you have to allow the mentee to choose the mentor, because that's when is the first time you open the doors. Basically, the mentoring only works when you are able to openly have a conversation and trust that the mentor is non-judgmental and gives you a feedback that you are willing to take. I think that's the ground rules of what mentoring is all about. And I think the second part of it is that you can definitely look for mentors everywhere. And I think LinkedIn is a great place, sending a message around those, and you have access to a lot of more people now than ever before. Everybody is online. Everybody's kept their profiles active. Everybody is very active in everything that they're posting as well. And there are some components that I've seen also in LinkedIn where if I want to be a mentor, I can actually say that I am open for mentoring for these topics. I think that's one thing that people can reach out to if they are looking for the particular subject mentoring. I think, but the important aspect of everything is to ensure that you have the right person in the right wavelength who's going to give you that. So if you want a subject mentor, is different from a career mentor, is different from a personal situation. How do I deal with this whole thing, kind of a mentor? I think that is one thing from an employee standpoint. And I think it's very important to make that connect. Having said that, it is up to you. So you have to ensure that you're having those conversations. So when I was in a mentor-mentee relationship, it was like many mentees were very proactive. So it's only when you have that proactiveness coming from the mentee, the mentor is also active and kind of wants to be involved. Otherwise, it is not like the mentor will actually go ahead and set up the calls and do that. That regular follow-up is key. Come prepared as to what you want from each session. I think that's an important thing, and what you want to take away, what you want to learn is one aspect of it. I think that is the one way. And I mean, if women are available, great. But I think in the environment that we are in, there are a lot of men who are available also from a mentoring standpoint. So if you want a woman mentor, great. But if you don't find one, don't be disappointed, because I had two male mentors and it worked equally well. Because in a professional environment, you want advice in terms of what you want to do. And I think from a leadership standpoint, leadership is gender neutral. So in that sense, what you want to do, how you want to take the particular opportunity that is in front of you is all something that you can have a decent conversation around, even with a man. So actually, I think that's one. And I think organizations anyway run these mentorship programs. And I think returnship is a great place to have that mentoring, because that's the time when women are a little bit more vulnerable. Even they join back. I think joining back is one hurdle, but I think retaining them is an important element, right? There are times when I know many people who've joined, but they feel that it's too much now. I can't do this, and they actually now fall back, I think, and they go back and do their own thing. So I think that's the point where holding their hand and ensuring that the organization say we care is an important element to stay. That's where mentoring actually will play a key part. I think the community, I think Ruchira talked about it, having a similar set of people that you can talk to will take it's a big advantage for making the employees stay back. So I think these are the few things that I'll say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think really this is really insightful, and I'm sure a lot of the participants here have taken away inputs in terms of how can they find mentors and gain a lot from the mentoring relationship. I'd like to pose the next question to you, Dr. Ankita, and I think you also spoke initially about the importance of women getting out into the corporate workspace and really taking that effort or taking that extra step to make sure that they're ready. In addition to what Priya spoke about, would love to hear your thoughts as well in terms of what can women do, right, so that they feel they're ready. And I'd like to also extend on Priya's point in terms of confidence, right? So there are a lot of times women lack confidence and they feel that, hey, am I ready? Am I not? And while it is very, very important to keep yourself up to date, and I've seen a lot of friends of mine as well who during their maternity breaks they have done courses, and I've been like awestruck to say, how did you find the time? And there's just so much going on, right? But I think it's brilliant, a brilliant idea to keep yourself updated. But what would be your perspectives? How else do you think women can make sure that they're ready before they get out there and start with full confidence?
Yeah. I think that's the most logical and reasonable point, that a lot of women are stuck. They want to do a lot of things, but they are not able to. Maybe because of the responsibilities or obligations. But I mean, are there less opportunities? Are there zero opportunities? No, that's not the truth either. So to ensure that you are at the right place, I mean, as I think Priya also mentioned, you have to own it. And I would simply put it in an acronym form, where I call, as in for our people, we say that you have to follow the return if you want to make your return fruitful. So R stands for ready, wherein to accept, adapt and change. Obviously, imagine, forget about, I mean, for a second, forget about females. Anybody and everybody has gone through this phase, this scenario where everything has changed. We HR people, I think we launched few policies and processes in the month of March 2020, and now if you ask me, maybe 50% of that has again be uh, you know rearranged or realigned as per the today's requirement. So R stands for ready. Are you ready to accept, adapt and change? That yes, if there is an opportunity, I am ready to find one and I'll be able to fit the system as well as the role. E stands for evaluate. As you also pointed out, Kriti, Ruchira also mentioned, Priya also, we know that we cannot be taken as a common pool. There are complications, there are issues at home. So maybe if I'm not able to work for 9 hours, if I cannot be a full timer, if I cannot work for 6 to 7 days or 5 days a week, I need to evaluate my situation. I need to really know where I stand and what percentage of my time or what percentage of my skill or overall I can give to the organization or anybody I'm ready to work with. T stands for take whatever you get. I think few of us mentioned, be it freelance work, internship, even if it's not for money, but you gain some experience while you are on your maternity leave, or for any reason, if you are on a break, volunteer yourself and keep learning, because that's how you know that where the market is going and where you should be. You at least get that time to learn while you work, and at the same time you get a pocket where you can prepare yourself when you want to full time join an organization. U stands for upskill. We all understand that people who are full timers, who do not take any break, even for them there is a skill gap. you know we don't proactively, not each one of us proactively would invest in a certification which would be needed for maybe 2 years later, same project, but that's the need. So for example, if somebody is doing life and DXP is required, a project manager or training team will have to push them, at least go ahead and do this certification. They would say no, it's working fine, I'll do it later. Now imagine when you are not on a project and you are sitting at home for 6 to 7 months or 9 months, you left your place with a skill set. How do you know that what all has changed? And even if you are connected with your people and you wish to go back to the same organization, have you invested and have you actually gone ahead with some kind of certification and training, or you are in touch with your people to know that yes, even I stand after I join where other people in my team would be. R stands for research and know. Going back in the system and at the time of interview saying that pandemic was there and I was on a break, I'm extremely sorry, but I don't know much what all has changed. Trust me, it will be a clear no from the interviewer, because nobody would want to take a person who's not even prepared or ready to be prepared. So keep learning, know where the world is moving, know where everybody around you is moving, and at least define that this is the destination and I'm taking those small steps to be at least there. Even if because of my current situation or past situation I have already not reached there, but I know the path, and if given a choice I will literally reach there much faster or contribute little more than what other people are doing. And that Priya also talked about just now, networking. That's the most important tool for people who are on break. It's really important to connect with your colleagues, with your managers. If at all, imagine if at all you want to go back to the same system, it becomes easy for you. It becomes for the people with whom you were working, because they know your strengths, they know your limitations. Now they know your current situation. They will be able to identify a role. You will always be there in their mind. And when you are back in the system, you will have a role which will suit your requirement and situation as well. When you are opting for a new role, if you have good connects, if you have a great network using LinkedIn or through friends, or when you attend seminars, you connect with speakers, you connect with other attendees, you connect with forums like Murli initially mentioned. If you say that I want to be part of the bond program, probably you will always get those links where you can apply and you can immediately get a job the moment you are available. So these are few basic things that I had put in return format because it's easy to remember. But at the end, I would say the ownership is with us. Will the society remove the obligations or the thought process in general that we have around females returning back after a break? That will not immediately change, and I don't know for how long it won't change. Organizations, will the biasness be completely removed? Probably not. It's just that we have to prepare ourselves in a way that when there is a job identified in the organization, at least we can say that maybe I cannot give my 100% in terms of time, but this is the time, these are the days I will be here and I'll do my level best. And that has to come only from the females directly. No other enabler would be able to get that for them. So that's from my end, Kriti.
I really love the acronym return, right? And I think it's going to stay with me for a long time. So beautifully put and very, very relevant points, right? And I think you're right. The ownership lies with us. And absolutely, while a lot of us are doing work around removing biases from workplace, but some of these stereotypes are so ingrained in the way we've been, let's say, experiencing them in the society so far that they do take time. There could be places where some of these biases would manifest, but yes, it's absolutely important for us to be ready and ready to take on the challenge, be updated. And like you rightly said, right now there is so much content available out there, right? And I think Murli also mentioned at the beginning that once the pandemic hit, they also started a series of webinars, and a lot of other organizations are coming out. I think Richard also mentioned earlier that how all the courses have opened up, right? Foreign university courses, and they're very, very easily accessible to us. So there is just a wealth of knowledge out there, and I think you're right that it's upon us to gain as much as we can, right, and stay updated. So thank you for sharing that. Just moving a little further in terms of, so we spoke about how do women prepare themselves as they return to work, but I'd like to take this a little bit further and say that what happens next. So we have a lot of returnship programs which organizations are running, and they are in different formats, right? It could be a boot camp, it could be an internship, it could be a full-time role, a variety of things, right? But going to a new organization, and often after returnship, women do end up taking different roles. They sometimes upskill themselves, or they take up roles in a different domain. So it's not easy for anybody to go to a new setup, to a new role, even more so when you've taken a break and you've been away. So my next question to you, Ruchira, is on how do you think that after joining back, uh, women can make sure that they're able to give the best, right? What would be your tips in terms of making sure that you make the best out of the opportunity you've got? And what could be some of the mechanisms, so to say, to make sure that work-life integration, as Dr. Ankita beautifully put it, and it's no longer about balance, right? It's about integration. So what can you do to integrate your work and life better, and come back with even more enthusiasm and force, so to say, right, when we go back to our workplaces?
Right, Kriti. So, Kriti, I think the best part about today's workplaces is that we are becoming much more attuned to the issues of equal opportunities, closing the pay gaps, creating a more inclusive environment. So my belief is, and I'm truly hoping that more and more companies would join this movement. And as that happens, this entire integration is made much more easier for the returning women. But having said that, and I would want to say it here also, and Dr. Ankita very rightly mentioned that it is upon us. All of us are not as fortunate. And I was, I think, one of the fortunate ones, Kriti, where my family was firmly on my side, while I started commuting for work when my daughter was just about 3.5 months old. And also fortunate enough to have managers who supported my ambition. But that's not always the case. So if I have to really give some prescription, though, as we have been saying from the very beginning, one size does not fit all, but these are my prescriptions, okay? I think the first thing is to prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically. And what I mean by saying mentally is, Dr. Ankita mentioned that the workplace has changed, the colleagues have changed, the work has changed, the way work is being done has changed, right? The office politics might be completely different than what it was when I stopped working earlier. So one has to be really mentally prepared to say that, yes, this is what it is. This is what it will take me to continue to be part of the workforce and be ambitious enough to meet my and be needy enough to meet my ambitions, right? So so that's one. Emotionally also, right? We are leaving, returning women are leaving behind usually babies, right, back at home, or ailing parents back at home, and that really takes a lot and might lead to an emotional upheaval. How do we really manage that with unbalancing it with the day-to-day demands of the work is something that one has to really be prepared for, and also seek help to get the balance there. physically also, right? Because it might become strenuous, right, for people to manage. Now, I was just managing home and my family, and now I will be expected to manage my work as well as the demands that my family would be making to me. Plus, if I'm commuting, then the commuting time and such things. So it also will lead to certain physical stress, right? So this is, I would say, one bucket, understanding and addressing while working about the emotional, physical, and emotional well-being of oneself. The second thing I would request everybody who's here out here is understand that nothing is perfect. Accept it and move on. You know, if today your cook doesn't prepare the kind of sambar that you like, which your mom used to make, it's okay. How many times I know for sure I will never be able to match my mom's cooking standards and tastes, right? So I have moved on. I've made peace with that. And hence I have also made peace with what my cook puts on my dining table for me and my husband to eat, my family to eat. And I've prepared my family also, saying this is it, right? So that's it. You know, nothing is perfect and it's fine. Don't take stress. That's the second thing. The third thing I would say is be empathetic towards your support staff. That woman who's coming to your home to help you is also a working woman. She might also on some days leaving a child behind who is not keeping well, right? So to be and once we understand that entire give and take relationship at home, also at workplace, I think the entire environment and even for our managers, it becomes much more conducive. The third thing is this entire thing of understanding what is your zarurat, you know, what is your need for doing this. Understand it, articulate it, whether the need of how many hours one would want to work, from where one would want to work, what kind of colleagues one would want to work with, what kind of work that somebody would want to do. I think articulating it and communicating that articulation to your family and to your workplace colleagues helps in end of the day integrating what will make me happy and what will be able to make what will make me able to make my meet my ambition quickly. Hope I have answered your question, but I thought these are some things which are sometimes we think these will just happen by poof automatically, but these are day-to-day realities, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I think I agree, right? You can never expect all the chips to fall in place and then take a next step, right? Often we think that, okay, when this circumstance will change, I will do this, or when a certain thing will happen, I will do this. But I think it's unrealistic to strive for a perfect world. And we need to kind of make do with what we have, right? So completely agree with you. And I also love the point you brought around how we need to focus on different aspects, right? And as you were talking, I was trying to put in like mental blocks in my head, and I would say that wellness, right? There are three aspects of wellness which I heard all three of you talk about. There is the physical wellness part of it, to make sure that you're up to date. And I know, Priya, you also spoke about how is it important to get into a routine about exercising and making sure that you have a routine, right? So that you're not so far away from what you would do if you did not have those challenges at home, right? So I think physical wellness becomes a very important part. I also love the point which both you, Ruchira and Dr. Ankita, talked about in terms of mental wellness. How do you prepare yourself? Make sure that you ask for help when it is needed, and you're able to cope up with the realities, and you're able to cope up with the stress of, let's say, leaving a child behind or ailing parents behind, right? I think that covers under emotional wellness or mental wellness. And the third part, of course, which all of you touched upon, was, I would like to call it as social wellness. So make sure you have a support system, make sure you have a mentor to fall back on, make sure you have expectations set within your family and even within your colleagues or teams, right? And I think when we ask, there are always people to support us and back us up. It's about creating that supportive ecosystem around you and taking charge of your own career. So thank you so much for sharing those perspectives. Really resonated with me, and I think with a lot of us on the group as well. I'd like to kind of now talk about how inclusion overall. I think we've talked a lot about what women could do. We've talked about what organizations could do. But I want to talk to you, Priya, and given that you have been a DNI champion for so many years, we've always had to take those steps to say inclusion. How do you promote inclusion? How do you have flexible policies? But in your experience and your years of experience of driving inclusion in different organizations, what do you think organizations can do to make sure inclusion becomes a way of life, right? How do we make it as natural as how we do any other process in the organization? What would be your perspectives?
I think I would say that also normalize inclusion. I think don't make it look different. And when you have like a women's forum, which everybody, I think all organizations pretty much have, like a women's network and things like that, open it up for everybody who wants to join, right? And I think making that is itself is a big deal, because I think ensuring that you have everybody participate. If you have like recently we did like a breast cancer awareness session, and we just opened up for all families to be there. So we told everybody that if you have any female relative who wants to join the session, feel free to do it. It's part of inclusion. It was driven from the women's network, but it was like open to everybody to join. We have core committee members in which men are actively participating in some of these, and I think that's a nice thing to just make them all be part of it. You don't have to make them look different. I think that's all about it, right? So basically, just don't treat it very differently. But I think there are times when there needs to be some intervention. So there were times when there was one manager who came to and told me that, do you think that this female is ready for the on-site opportunity, for example? I said, allow her to choose, and allow her to say that, because you don't bias it because you feel that she may not be actually ready. But to the experience, when he asked her, she said, yes, I want to go. And he was quite surprised himself. So I think removing that bias of anything around, including anybody in any opportunity, or be it a promotion, or be it any event, I think that's the big thing. So I think normalizing that and making it a day-to-day is something that would actually bring it to it. There could be cases when you feel that you're not going to be there looking at everybody talking every day. But if you feel that there is something that requires to be said and kind of corrected, I think do it as a leader, I think. And most of the time, when the leaders on the top actually walk the talk, I think many people kind of overall take it, saying that this is what the culture of the organization is. So probably that's when people realize that probably it is just normal to have be in any session where women are. And I think one more thing is in the leadership also, if there's just one woman on the top, don't make her feel different, right? I think ensure that she's part of everything. So if you're going for a golf or going for a drink, include her and let her say that she doesn't want to be part of it, but don't make that assumption yourself to say that maybe she won't be interested or anything else. So I think inclusion is all about making it look normal, behave normal. And if you feel that there is something not going as per the normal way of it, I think ensure that you correct it.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's you put forward a really brilliant point, right? It actually takes me back to one of the conversations I was having with one of the managers a couple of months back. We were running a workshop on dealing with empathy, and we were talking about how is it important to be empathetic, how it is important to understand the other's perspective, put yourself in other shoes, and then take the conversation forward. And there was this engineering manager who remarked that I don't understand. I have been empathetic. There was this person in my team who came back from maternity leave, and I did not put her on a challenging project because I knew that she would need flexibility.
Exactly.
But she was not happy, and
Yeah.
I don't know where I went wrong, right? And that's when we had a very good conversation. One of the other managers said, "Did you even think to ask? Did you even check with her. She may have been completely open, right? She may have a different
Correct.
situation in her home and she would have been very willing to kind of pick up a challenging assignment. But the fact that you did not ask means that you did not understand her situation. So I think really, really interesting point, that you brought forward, Priya. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Ankita, anything you'd like to add, right? Can you share some of the things you've been driving from an inclusion standpoint in your organizations, and what do you think works?
Uh, Kriti, I think Priya has covered it beautifully. When we talk about inclusion, I would borrow the word zarurat from what Ruchira just used. I think a lot of organizations, they already have, understood this concept really well and they are working towards it. So first step, according to me, is you have to identify the need and the zarurat if you really have to do something in a different manner. So I would say yes, you don't have to project different sections differently, but if the need is, if you know the culture of the organization or people of the organization have difficulty in accepting the word inclusion and the norms around it, we have to take it up as a project. We have to set up a target which has to be met. You have to have a core team that is rigorously working around it. So creating awareness sessions where you talk about it. More importantly, your processes and policies should be reflecting what you want to do. And last, I would say, in addition to what Priya has already stated, talk about it. A lot of times at management level, we identify that this is the need, this is what we need to do in the organization, and we expect individuals to participate without even telling them what's their role. So it's really,
Yeah.
really important to talk about it, communicate well and clearly. And the last piece, and the most important one, the purpose has to go to each individual in the organization, because the step that you are taking, every individual should know what's the reason, what's the purpose behind that act. And if that's clear, trust me, everybody would very easily and comfortably come together and ensure that your project is a hit. So yeah, that's what we are doing in our organization.
Thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And I think, like you both shared, it starts from the top, and it is about setting the right examples which leaders do themselves, and it is also, I feel, it's also about some of the community-related aspects, right? Which many of you spoke about. A lot of organizations have these groups or ERGs where both men as well as women come together and stand as allies, right? Stand tall as allies. So I think also important to have that culture of acceptance in the organization so that you feel comfortable in raising issues if you see, and how the organization reacts to it is also very, very important. So thank you for sharing that. Before we move to the Q&A from our audience, I'd like to ask all of you, right? Any parting thoughts in terms of how this set of women who are on the call today, who've come together today to understand from you all in terms of what can they look for, right? Specifically in terms of returnship programs. There's so much of conversation on diversity and inclusion in the last few years, and that has actually led to organizations taking a step forward in terms of hiring more women in workforce. I think a lot of us are questioning to say, hey, what do our metrics look like? Are we promoting enough women? Do we have enough women in the right functions, in the right levels? Richard also spoke about gender pay parity. So I think some of these conversations are becoming very, very, they're gaining a lot of traction, right? So with all of that happening, many organizations have launched returnship programs. So want to understand your point of view, and as women in this group look for, let's say, coming back to workforce, what should be their parameters, right? What should they look for? What kind of, let's say, I want to take the next step in my career. There are so many opportunities available out there. How do I pick the right one? I'd love to hear from all of you. Maybe Ruchira, you could go first, and then we can hear from other two panelists as well.
Sure, Kriti. I would say it's a two-way street, but a street that I choose as a returning woman. Whether it's a narrow street, broad street, with traffic, without traffic, what kind of cars, pedestrians, non-pedestrians. I choose my space so that I know this is something that I am comfortable with to return and make my way into whatever I'm wanting to do later. So, and it has to be a two-way street. It cannot, but having said that, there's so many organizations which are putting these returnship programs, very structured, well thought of returnship programs. The women have to really understand where they fit in and choose that path. So.
Thank you, Ruchira. Priya, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll give some tips. So I think, like I said, I think stay connected, I think is important. But one thing that people could really do is when you're looking at so many resumes and when you're hiring people, I think try to make the career break a normal routine. So in the sense that put the start date, end date, write what actually the break was, because you don't want to like end something and then start after 2 years and do something else and things like that. So I think that could be one. And also another one is try to put the resume in a more functional order instead of actually putting in a chronological order, right? I think that could be something that can catch the eye. And most of the time when you're looking at so many resumes, you're looking for somebody who's different. And, in terms of how they approach something that they have done or things like that. So I think that could be one way. Write definitely on the learnings and the certifications that you were doing in the break time. So at least people know. And I think Dr. Ankita talked about it. Nobody really wants to train somebody from the beginning and take somebody who's already, kind of paused their learning 2 years back and now want to come back. They want to see somebody who's on the path already. And organizations also want to pick up and go from where they left it, right? So I think write about the certifications and everything else. And also if you have taken a break for anything else, maybe you just took a break for traveling or, I don't know, maybe taking care of something or things like that. Write about any learnings that you have done because of that experience. Maybe dealing with a different culture, you lived in a different country, doing something else. I think including that, yes, I took a break and did this, but I learned this will be something that could attract the recruiter's attention. So I think the first step is to get interviewed, right? Then the job part of it comes. So if you really want to make that little bit of buzz around yourself, I think you have to be different from any other resume. So I think that would be my tip.
So beautifully put. And you're right, because there is it's a competitive job market out there, right? For every role that we hire for, there are so many qualified people that apply. So such a brilliant point in terms of how do you make yourself stand out. And you're right? I think when you come across resumes and as hiring managers, when people look at shortlisting, if there is a break, people are often left guessing to say, okay, what could have been the reason? But actually, recently I came across one profile which actually talked about that for this duration, I was a stay-at-home mom. And these are the 5 things that I learned. So
exactly.
It was so beautifully put, and it
nothing to feel guilty, right? You did it because you wanted to do it. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not about that I took a break. It's not about going on a back foot. I could have a variety of reasons, right? I could have just wanted to travel and explore myself, or just see the world. So it's a very relevant point. And the moment I saw that profile, I wanted to have a conversation, because the points in terms of how that break helped that candidate evolve as a professional was just amazing, right? So I think such a beautiful point. It's a simple step, but I think very, very beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Dr. Ankita, I could hear from you as well.
I will just try and take few pointers from what I have already shared. The first, I would say, stay real, because, we would not be able to pretend for much longer time. So when you go for an interview and the other person says that, this job would need 6 hours every day, and just because you're so desperate to get that job and you're not sure if there would be other opportunity, you may say yes. But the problem is, little later, even you will suffer, and definitely the organization. So that's the first point. Stay real. Know yourself well. You have to, while you are on break, please define your strengths and limitations. Obviously, we are on break because there are set of limitations. When we wish to go back, we can't say that we are all geared up and we are free from everything. Few of it will hang around. So acknowledge that and know it really well. Only on that basis, you will be able to give clarity to the interviewer and the organization. And at the same time, you'll be able to get a job that will suit your needs best. Keep learning. We all have covered. Whenever you get time, there, trust me, there are courses of 15 minutes on Udemy, and a simple learning. And if we say we can't even manage to get 15 minutes, that's quite surprising. So we need to connect with our team members. What new you are doing while I'm on break? So this new project has come. What all you people are doing? Can you just share that sheet, or can you share that mail? At least I know, probably I'm not actively working on it, but I'll know what all things are changing. So keep learning. That's the third point. Communicate clearly with your family, with yourself, and with the people you would be working, because that's the only mantra that will keep you, safe, and it will help you sustaining the job that you have already picked up. So do not compromise on communication. And the last point would be, a lot of times when we stop working, we leave our career at a point. There is no guarantee that we may get the same project or the same kind of work. When you are working on yourself, when you are defining your strengths and limitations, please understand that, what if I don't get the same job? Am I open to learn a new skill and shift to some other team or some other project? And if that's the piece that's already set in your mind, trust me, you are actually multiplying your opportunities and options that are available in market. So owning it is something that will do all the magic. So these are the 5 points from my end, and best wishes to everybody who is here on this forum.
Thank you. I think you're right? It's very important to stay relevant, and it's very important to keep yourself updated, as you all have spoken about. And I think just a few days back, I was interviewing a candidate, and she actually spoke about that when she took a maternity break, and she started exploring a lot of topics, what all was available out there. That's when she found her true passion. So she was doing something very different before she went on a break, and then during that break, she realized that, hey, this is not where my heart lies. I want to do something different. And since then, she actually made conscious efforts to move into a career of her choosing. She was a techie before that for 10 years. And after that break, right, she picked up something in learning space. She realized she was passionate about building high performance teams. She realized that she was passionate about doing something in the space of organization development and change management. And she completely switched her careers. And she said that I've really found, my calling. And I thought it was a beautiful story, right? Take that time kind of give her perspective to think about what she really wanted to do, and it worked out really well for her. And she said that I don't see it as a break, or I just see it as an opportunity to, really find my space, find what I'm passionate about, and then kind of go forward with it, right? So thanks. And I think that kind of, makes a lot of sense in terms of how can we stay updated, how can we continuously learn and upskill ourselves so that we're always ready for whatever is out there. Really insightful discussion. I had a lot of takeaways, and I'm sure people in the audience did as well. We have a few minutes, and before that, I'd really love to take some questions from the audience. So all our participants out there, do feel free to post your questions on the chat, and if you have your questions for any of our panelist members, feel free to add that as well, and we'll take questions from all of you.
Kriti, there is one question that has come from Lakshmi. We kind of have given an answer, but at the same time, if we can just, give a little more importance to the question, and, if you can just ask it. Do you want me to read the question for the panel?
Yes, Amrita, thank you. I was just searching for it. Please go ahead.
I'll do that. So Lakshmi is asking that I shifted from the corporate to the education sector after a break, but my previous experience is not considered as an experience in my present field. So this has hampered my growth opportunities. Is there any way out from this situation? So any of the leaders can take the question up. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, Anita. Yes.
Okay.
I suppose we have, at least it's a difficult question. Is it so much on Lakshmi, or is it really on the person who has recruited the place where she's working, is what I'm wondering. But I'll hold my horses. Over to you, Priya, Dr. Ankita.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. So, even if I know many people who have changed their line of work even in a regular job. So nobody taking any break or anything. Somebody who was in engineering went to QA, from QA went to become a BA and so on. And most often than not, I think people, when they actually take them into their team, they kind of question whether this person is really up to that scale of level of experience and so on. So I think having said that, coming back to what Lakshmi's question is, I think it's a matter of looking at the organization which values you for what you bring to the table, I would say. And don't feel bad about the experience not being counted. But if you have made a conscious decision to move away from the corporate to education, and if it is not being considered, I think it is only a matter of few years unless you build your expertise in the area that you are in right now as an educator. So, it's hard to ignore what has already been done, but maybe the learnings of what you have from your past experience can play actually a more crucial part to where you are. So I think there will always be that little bit of, a couple of years, you feel that why am I not really looked at as somebody with maybe 10 years experience, maybe 8 years who worked in corporate, but they're only considering you as more like other experience plus being an educator only for the last 2 years. I'm just making it up. I don't know your situation completely, but I'm saying that maybe if you excel in what you are doing right now, I think this all is a matter of time. I mean, with the limited information I have on the question, I think that's what I would say.
Absolutely. Okay, I think Lakshmi has found her answer. There's another question which has come, which is, when we were also doing the research around the entire bond program, this kind of thing kept coming in front of us also, that, can you give us some tips on dealing with mom guilt? So this is something which is coming, like in even our research, this thing kind of came in. So if anyone of you can pick up the question.
I don't want to disappoint, but that stays all your life. If you're a working mom, it'll always stay. I think the degree varies.
But yeah, the degree varies. Yes. But one of the things, I think Sumita asked that, one of the things that has worked for me, Sumita, is making my daughter party to my decisions. So telling her exactly why I stay long hours, and end of the day, she actually was extremely proud of what I do, right, and what I bring to her rather. Yes, so that has helped me. Would it help everybody? I don't know, but that has really worked for me.
I will just add in because we discussed that balance is not possible. There's no perfect life. So we can't say that we will, literally take care of our kids and at the same time we'll be 100% great at our work. So you have to accept, you have to create pockets. So there will be few days where you are focusing only on work. And there will be few days where you will get some breathing space and where you can spend more time with your kids and whatever guilt. It's not just the mom guilt. There are so many guilts, trust me, we are surrounded with. So you can create your pockets and you can literally define and give time as and when you have. And that's purely what we mean when we say you have to integrate, because there are 100 things, those are out of our control. What we can actually work around is controllable things. So that can be a way out, and at least that has been working for me well.
And just to add, I'll say that surround yourself with people who are actually dealing with it. The more you are with people who are finding it difficult to deal with it, the more you are going to be like more guilty. So if you have a working mothers group, be part of it. So at least you know that, okay, somehow they are managing it. And I'll say that nobody really talks about the guilt so openly, but everybody feels it, right? You feel it every day when you are having a child, and there are so many things that happen in a day that you can't really control. But I think the feeling is more about staying positive. I think that's the important element. If you have people who are saying it's not possible and making you more guilty, if possible, keep away from them as much as possible. So I think that's the mental state, I'll say, because the more they are actually going to pressurize you, the more you actually are going to feel it every single day. And I like Ruchira's point. I do the same with my daughter, and she knows that mom has to travel, she'll be away, she'll be here, there. But I think including them into your own professional life, and they see their mothers, and I have a boy earlier, And with my son, it was a lot more difficult because I was younger. With my daughter, I think I learned it the first time. So the second time, I kind of just went a little bit more stronger, I think. But I think with both of them, now that they are much older, so my son is 22 and my daughter is 14. But having said that, they see and they feel really proud of who you are. End of the day, your family is what really matters, right? So don't go with what the society feels and make you feel guilty. It's more about what your family actually feels about you. And that's the only thing that you have to tackle and nothing else.
I think such beautiful points, right? I have a 4-year-old, and I will make sure that as she grows up, I'll take cues from what you said, and I'll include her in the process as well, right? And
help her pack your bags. I think that would be a good start.
No, and I think I really agree with your point around surrounding yourself with the right people, right? It's very important to know that you're not in this alone. That has personally helped me a lot of times. And I think, like you said, there are always people who will pass judgment.
Yeah.
There will always be those naysayers who will say, hey, you're not doing this well or that well, or why did you, let's say, not show up for a particular event or something like that, right? There will always be those people who will kind of pass on judgment, but it's very important to have your support system in place, and surround yourself with people who will tell you you're not in this alone and who will actually help you cope. So completely agree with those points.
I think I've received one question personally, so I would like to take that up with the leaders. I'm preparing my profile to get back to work after 2 years of my career break. I have all the required skills and I was constantly in touch with my industry, but I'm confused about my salary package. How can women professionals like me after a gap decide how much they should get? That's one. And even she's confused about the kind of designation she should get after a break of 2 years. So this question kind of came up when we were doing a research. So women are really confused as to, because 2 years is a long gap for people to be taking the same salary, but then they haven't worked. So they are like these kind of questions that come in when they start applying. So how do you deal with these issues?
Okay, so again, you have to know the market, you have to know people. I think Ruchira, Priya, everybody kept talking about networking, staying connected with your colleagues and people around you. You start your career with similar set of people, right? Similar experience. If I have taken a break, what is the current salary of those people who are working in different organizations, or my colleagues who are still working in the same organization. So that's the only way to at least find out, if at all there was no break, what your salary would have been. Now that you know that you have already taken that break, you will have to accept that there will be some gap, and you have to evaluate that gap, being true to yourself. You have to understand that people who have been in the system for 2 years, though everybody around would be more than empathetic, but the issue is that they were in the system and they were working. So obviously there will be a gap which we have to accept, and a true evaluation of self, once it is done, you will be very easily able to negotiate with the interviewer or the organization that you're back into. So that's my say on this.
I have a very simple suggestion for this. Make friends with HR, somebody in HR, and get all the answers about this.
Influence them as well.
Influence them as well, yes.
I'll add 2 points, right? What's happening in the industry on women on break, and they want to come back, and looking for opportunities. At least what we observed in last 3-4 years were, there are firms now started looking at, one, because they want to increase the employable women in the industry, so that few of the firms where, Kriti was also part of that forum when we spoke, they're kind of bringing in, people who are actually from the break, not looking at their skill set, and they wanted to hire them based on their ability on various aspects of what they've worked, bringing them to industry and then training them in various aspects and making them allocated to different areas. When they get trained for 2 months, 3 months, they may not get paid at that level of what they're supposed to pay, but when they're allocating to their functions and they're giving as per the role which they're capable of, so that they are at par with the industry people. They're trying to bring them back to the normalizing of the salaries. So that's happening. So we kind of already talking with 4 or 5 firms, and they're actually doing this a lot more, right? And then because that largely answers this is how it is happening, and so nothing wrong in it. But look at, as Ruchira mentioned also, is understand who are the people doing it, and be friends with a lot of HR folks in the industry so that they will guide you. Then there is definitely, everybody wanted to bring the right workforce back to the industry, so that's happening as well. Hope I made little sense.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Murli. Thank you for sharing that. And I think this is where all of our panelists talked about the power of networking, right? That's where it comes into picture. You will have a support system who you can reach out to. You can seek advice on some of these topics. Does this role make sense for me? Does this pay package make sense for me, right? And that's when people who've been in the industry, they'll be able to help you and guide you on those aspects. I also saw another interesting question on the chat, which which talked about how do I know which technology to get back to and what should I look at coming back on, right? And I think taking cues from what Dr. Ankita said in terms of understand what all is out there, prepare to change yourself a little bit in terms of your skill set if there is a need. I think there are a lot of programs out there, and there are different sort of formats. And actually, Murli and I were discussing this a few weeks back as well, that often there is this, and we spoke about this earlier also, right? There are returnship models, there are boot camp related models, there are full-time hiring models. Explore what is out there, right? And often these projects or these internships help you. They'll help you at least bridge that gap, seemingly, gap in terms of what skill sets you ideally should have gained during the break. So these internships, projects, there are a lot of startups out there, right, who are looking for people who can quickly come on board and execute projects for them. It always helps to look for those opportunities and then upskill yourself. And then there's always bigger things out there, right? So I would say go for it, look at what opportunity suits you and use this as a learning opportunity. Even if you feel that it's not something which I want to do for a long term, it could always teach you something new.
Absolutely. So I think we are like 2 to 3 minutes left with the webinar. In case from the audience there are any other questions that we want to take up, and if you can put it on the chat, we will kind of answer that in the next 2 to 3 minutes.
I just want to comment on one that participant put, saying that you're all superwoman. But I think it looks like, because we've only spoken about the nice things. Okay. But we all have been through the journey, exactly what you have gone through. And I think we're able to somehow come out of those situations. So I think it's all about the power within. So trust yourself, trust your instincts, stay positive, surround yourself with people, who actually push you beyond what you actually think you can. And I think keep learning. You have the power in you.
Lovely.
Yeah, I think there are more questions. Maybe I'm sure, right? Just to respecting the value of our time, let's actually kind of, I'll send those details to each of you. Few of the questions, maybe I'll request Ruchira and Priya and Ankita to just revert to us, and we'll share back to the people who are questioning on the thing, and Kriti, you as well, right? And maybe thank you very much. I think it's a lovely session. There are a lot more questions out there. At least I could see maybe another 6-7 more questions are actually kind of coming up now. Maybe I need to call you guys again for question and answers, discussion for this.
Why not?
That's also a good format.
Yeah, that's fine. So Kriti, thank you very much for nice moderation. Thank you very much, all the panel.
Thank you, Murli, and thank you, panelists. It was lovely interacting with all of you here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. And it was a great session interacting with all of you.
Fantastic.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Kriti, for an amazing moderation.
Yeah. Thanks, Kriti. I think the magic part was covered by you.
Yeah, I agree.
Presentation. So thank you so much. Ankita, Murli, thanks for giving this opportunity to us, and wonderful knowing Priya, Ruchira. Thank you so much.
Yeah, same here.
All the best, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
All of
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Bye.
evening.
Bye.
Bye.